You already have a podcast. You do not need Podcast 101, but you know your podcast should be bringing in more opportunities than it is. You hear about networking, connections, business opportunities, maybe even sponsorship dollars, self-expression, serving your community. You know your podcast can be doing more to serve you and your business than it is right now. Most podcast hosts are not doing the deep foundational work, the work to create a great show, to elevate their craft, to use the data available to understand what their audience is looking for. These are things that I've learned over 30 years behind the scenes in my career. Working behind the scenes in commercials, documentaries, social media campaigns, helping people and companies convey their messages, their stories effectively, using that mix of data and creativity that it takes to get really clear and effective. This can change the way you think about everything. In the podcast world specifically, I started the official podcast for Spartan Race. Working with their CEO and founder, Joe DeSena, we took that from 0 to over 35 million views and downloads, and had the opportunity to have conversations with people like Richard Branson, Mark Cuban, Ariana Huffington, and a lot of incredible people you've never heard of. I have taken a deep look into what makes a podcast, a content strategy, effective and successful. And I've boiled it down to a series of strategies, tools, and exercises that I want to share with you so you can understand those foundational principles of making your show great in a way that's going to serve your business goals and serve your audience. This is not a program for beginners, and there are no guarantees. You have to put in the work. There are 3 pieces to building a successful audience. The first is getting people to find you. I think about that like customer acquisition. But once they find you, if what they get isn't great, isn't serving them in the way that they'd hoped, that's like customer service, well, then they're not going to stay. And that third piece is customer retention. How do you get them to come back next time? So all those growth hacks and ad strategies and podcast swaps, guesting opportunities, those all work for part 1, bringing the guests to find you. But if what they find isn't good, if you haven't done that work, well, you're throwing your money and time away on those things. So in this process, you're going to learn how to find clarity in your own voice, how to use real, practical data to find out what your audience is really looking for, what they're responding to best, how to create a strategy and a structure for your show that's geared around your goals for the show, what you want to do with it, and what that show can do for you. We'll dig deep into interviewing technique, how to have an intentional conversation that serves your purposes. Most podcast hosts are not doing this deep foundational work, the work to make their show great, to make a show that listeners want to hear, that incredible guests want to appear on, to open up all those opportunities that you know a podcast can hold for you. Think about it this way. What makes you come back to a great book? It's not the typeface. It's not the cover design. It's what they're saying and how they're saying it inside the book. The cover matters. You've got to bring the people in. But essentially, what's there when they come in? And is it of value to them? That's what we're going to work on. Okay, so here's the point. I'm about to offer, starting in mid-January, my first ever group small workshop series. This is a 90-day cohort-based small group workshop. This is not for beginners. This is for people who are willing to dig in, and you will see results. I'm offering this workshop at just about 50% of what the final price will be. And the reason is that it's the first time I've done it in this format. And in return for that huge discount, I'm hoping to get a ton of feedback from you. So what you get is extra attention and almost half off of the price. And what I get is great feedback so that when I run the course the next time at full price, I know I've got everything locked in perfectly. You know your podcast can be doing more for you. Let's work on it together